What's up, YouTube? It's your boy Simply P back again with another daily dose. So today I'll be talking about how I purchased my first investment property. I'm going to be walking you guys through all the steps on everything that I did. Now this subject is really near and dear to my heart because at one time, like a lot of people, I didn't think it was possible for me to purchase an investment property. It was only a dream. But then as I started to really research it and really look into it, I knew it was something feasible. Now, after purchasing my first property, I said, okay, I want to be able to tell everybody about this experience so more people can really do it because it's something obtainable for all of us. So before I talk about, the steps that I went through to buy my investment property, I want to give y'all the motivation of what made me want to get in real estate. I got a buddy that I hoop with, his name is James. Here in Minnesota, we have this, these beautiful lakes. They're called Lake Calhoun and Lake Rials. And, these homes, the average price of these homes in these neighborhoods is $800,000 to $1 million. Well, I got a dude that I'm hooping with, and he told me he was a school teacher. Well, one day, I'm walking around over there by the lakes, and I see him in somebody's yard, and I'm like, James, what you doing over here in these people's yard? Then he's like, this is my home. I live here. Then I'm like, fam, I thought you told me you was a school teacher. And he's like, I am. But what I didn't tell you, I made 6 figures last year from passive income in real estate. And that right there, I was sold from that minute on. Dude is a school teacher living in almost $1 million home by the lakes. But because he's been doing real estate, he has 10 or 12 investment properties. So he's getting all of this cash flow, and he's built this cash flow up enough that his passive income is triple that of his regular income, and it pays for all his expenses. So I said, man, I gotta have that. I wanted that mailbox money. I didn't always want to trade my time for money. I wanted to have some money that was gonna come in regardless of what I did. So step number 1 for me was saving for a down payment. This is basically really should be step 0. This is before you even get into the process. Saving for a down payment. So now if you're getting an investment property and it's not owner occupied, you're gonna have to put 15 to 20% down. That's just what any lender bank is going to ask for. Now, if you do owner occupied, you can put anywhere from 3 to 5% down. They would like a little bit more, and I would suggest a little bit more, but you can get into the game for as low as 3 to 5%. Step number 2 is making sure your credit and everything right. And I guess, that kind of goes with the last thing, saving for a down payment. These are all kind of like pre-steps. But you got to make sure your credit is right. The better credit that you have, the better interest rates you will get from banks. My wife and I, we both have tremendous credit. Ours is about 800. Each of us have an 800. We get the preferred rates, which are the best rates you can get. The better credit you have, the better interest rate you're going to get. So make sure your credit is all straightened out before you go into this process. Step number 3 for me was speaking with a lender or a mortgage broker. I work with a lady named Sunny, and I think this is very, very important because what you don't want to do is something that I did. I went and I looked at homes that I really fell in love with, and then I found out these homes were out of my price range, and I was hurt, and I was like, dang, I kind of went out of order. So to save you that trouble, what I want you to do is make sure you go speak to a lender first and find out how much you can truly qualify for. Doesn't mean you have to use all that money, but then you have a better picture of what you should be looking at. Because, looking at homes that are outside of your price budget will truly throw you off, because those homes that are $200,000, $300,000 more than you can afford look totally different than the ones that you can truly afford. So go to a lender, make sure you know what you can qualify for. Now, in that process, this is what they will need. They will need tax returns for the past 2 years. They will need W-2s for the past 2 years. They will need bank statements for the past 3 months. They will need employee information. How long have you been employed? How long have you been with this employer? And, just different things like that. And then the last thing they asked us for is check stubs for the past 2 pay cycles. So those are what you will need for your lender. Okay, step number 4 is, now that you know how much you qualify for, build your criteria. Do the math. What kind of property are you looking for? What can your budget truly afford? And then you do the math and you look for those kind of properties. Doing the math is very important. Like I said, you don't want to look for homes that are too much over the price that you can qualify for. My wife and I, we qualified for about $750,000. We ended up getting an investment property that was way cheaper than that. Just because we qualify for that much doesn't mean we had to use that much. So I suggest that to you. Build your criteria. Do the math. What can you truly afford? What are you comfortable with? Okay, step number 5. Getting a realtor / looking for properties. I think they go together. You can look for properties on your own through Zillow and through multiple other sites, but I think having a realtor brings a lot of value. Luckily for myself, my brother-in-law Nate Polk and my mom Monique Hill are both realtors. They're a team. They're on the Shield Group, which is headed by my brother-in-law Nate Polk. If you need a property in Minneapolis, or you're an out-of-town investor looking for a property here in Minneapolis, hit one of them 2 up, because they can definitely help you. They're big-time real estate agents. But what a real estate agent can do is they're always looking for properties, so they can bring you properties within your criteria that, are great options for you. Now, I'm not going to lie. The best properties are the ones that do not come to market. And what I mean by that, they're not listed on the MLS. They're not on the Zillows. These are deals that never come to the market. These are the ones that you can get the best deal and you can negotiate the best with. Those are the best deals. But everybody doesn't have access to that. That's why it's important to have like a real estate agent, because they may come across some deals like that. So you got to look at as many properties as possible. Another thing that's very, very important is the location of the property. Now, for me, because we're doing owner occupied, I had to find a place that was in a great location. Otherwise, my wife was not moving there. I like to be in nice neighborhoods, not where there's a lot of apartment buildings. I like to be in the city where I know that it's easily rented. I like to be in an area that's more upscale. So that way I'm not dealing with, lower level renters. I'm dealing with, high income earners. Everybody has their, criteria of stuff that they look for. But I'm telling you, for me, I wanted to deal with people, where I didn't have to worry if they're going to make their mortgage or not. Or if I'm not living in an area where it's high crime rate. Location is very important. So if I'm going to have my family there, then it's got to be a safe and upscale, nice place. Step number 6. So now I looked for a bunch of properties. I think I looked at about a total of 10 or 12 properties for about 2 months till I finally found a property I want in South Minneapolis. And so once I found that property, what I did is the cash flow analysis. And for me, that included, what would the mortgage be? What would the insurance be on this property? I got to put in something for vacancies. I got to put in a little bit for repairs. But I put all of those into like a formula, and I said I came out with a number. $2,300 was my all-in cost per month. That included some utilities and different things, taxes. But so $2,300. Now I have to cash flow this property. I have to make more than $2,300. So just a little bit of background about my situation. I'm living in a single family home right now. I'm selling my single family home and I'm moving into a duplex. When I think about cash flowing, I don't need the other side to truly pay for the whole cost of the duplex, which is ideal in most cases. But what I want to do is reduce my monthly expenses. So they are going to be tremendously reduced by moving in this duplex. And moving in this duplex, mine will be $2,300, but I'm able to rent the bottom unit out for $1,500. So now I'm looking at paying about like $800 or $700 a month. So I've just kind of split my mortgage in half. That $700 I can save every month and, you know, build it up to buy another property. So for us, it's a cash flow of $700 going into our pocket. Step number 7. After you do the cash flow analysis and you find out that this property is going to cash flow for you, what you want to do now is make an offer. Now, because this duplex that I purchased was priced very competitively, we actually put an offer in the first day we seen a property, and multiple other people put in offers. So in a situation like that where you have multiple offers, I always take the advice my mom gave me as a real estate agent, been doing it for almost 15 years, is put your best foot forward. And that's all you can do. Now, you don't want to overextend yourself. You don't want to pay too much for the property, because if you pay too much, then that cuts into your cash flow. What we did is we put our best foot forward, which was just slightly above what they were asking for, but it still made sense for us to be cash flow positive on the other side. Another thing that is like very important about having a real estate agent is they're able to negotiate with the sellers. We were in the multiple offers. He would call the seller agent will call my real estate agent, my brother-in-law, and say, you're right there, you want to move your offer up. But having an experienced real estate agent, he called their bluff. So we didn't move our offer up, and we ended up getting the property for a price that made sense for us, even though it was slightly above the asking price. Step number 8 for us was the inspection. So we won the bid, we ended up getting the house, so now we gotta do our inspection. The inspection is very important. What we did on ours, we hired a little bit more expensive, very experienced inspector. Company, actually it was a company, but they sent a very experienced inspector, and we inspected every single thing. I'm talking about from the roof to the foundation to the electrical. You need to inspect everything. Now, one thing I want to tell you is, no matter if the property is brand new or very old, the inspection is always going to uncover something. But when it uncovers certain things, all you have to do is ask the seller for a credit. In our inspection, we found out that this house had boilers that were 100 years old, and that they had small leakage. Now, the heat was still working, everything was working properly, but in order to replace these boilers, if they were to go out, which they were very old, it would be anywhere from $20,000 to $25,000. So we asked for a credit, either a reduction in the price or that the sellers bring that much to the closing, add to our closing costs. And what they decided to do was add to our closing costs. So whatever you find in the inspection, you ask the seller for a credit. Either they're going to give you the money like toward the closing costs, or they'll reduce the cost of the property. In our case, we wanted the actual cash. We didn't want the property reduced in the cost. We wanted that cash, so we're going to take that $20,000 and put it to our own pocket so we can make better use of the money. But when the time comes for us to actually have to replace the boilers, we have that money in pocket. Now, because this was my first property, I had no idea about the leasing agreements, and I kind of dragged my foot on it. And when I looked, I had so many different ones. I went to biggerpockets.com. I listened to a podcast about real estate. They gave me some options. Obviously, you have to get a leasing agreement that works for you. I have a real estate attorney that I work with, so I actually had the attorney look over it, but you don't have to go that far. But I just wanted to make sure on this first property, on my first investment property, that I was covered on all ends. So now the last step and the next step is dealing with the closing costs and the actual closing. So the closing costs, you're gonna have escrow fees, you're gonna have lender fees, you're gonna have a couple other fees. They're probably gonna average around 1% for. So for me, they were like about $4,500 or $5,000. So on $400,000 property, actually ours was slightly above that. It was like $410 or something like that, 407. It ended up being $5,000. Now, one unique thing about my situation is, so my down payment the money from my down payment I'm using on the profits of my current home. So I had to schedule my current home closing in the morning and then do my investment property right after that in the afternoon. So, that's different than most people. Most people save for that down payment. My down payment is in my home. So we're going to have about a little bit over $100,000 in profit from this home. We're going to put down a 10% down payment. Now remember, 20%, $20,000 is coming in the form of a credit. They're going to bring $20,000 to the closing for us. So all we have to put down is a little bit less than $20,000, about $19,000. That's my situation. So you figure if I'm putting $19,000 down, let's do some math. I can do it right now. So my down payment will end up being $19,000. Now I talked about this in the earlier step, the cash flow analysis. So I'm putting $19,000 down. My profit, my cash flow positive will be $700 a month. So if I take 700 times 12 months, that'll give me $8,400 a month. Then I divide that by $19,000, my initial down payment, and it's going to be about 44% cash on cash return. Now, that's not including the amount I'm going to get for paying down the mortgage, like paying down my principal, which is another probably $4,000. So I'm looking at about a 60% return cash on cash for this property. Now that's phenomenal. You don't get a lot of properties like that, but I made sure in this process of looking for a home that I really did my due diligence so that I would get a property that would have high cash on cash return for myself. So those are the steps that I went through to obtain my first investment property. Now there's a lot of little stuff along the way that I didn't mention, but those are the main things that I think everybody will experience when going through buying their first investment property. If you have any questions or you want to ask me about anything, please leave a comment below and I will definitely give you my thoughts or advise you on something, or just answer what I went through. And also you can send me a message on my Instagram, which is Mr. Simply P. DM me, I will help you. Lastly, if you have any suggestions about, videos that you would like to see, I got a couple more in mind that I think that will really help people, then please leave them below. And as always, like, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you know when new videos come out. It's your boy Simply P. All I can ever be is me. Until next time, peace.